Cam Jones is one of the biggest stars of the college basketball season through the first two, maybe 2.5 months of the season. You could stretch it out to three, I guess, if you wanted to. Was in the National Player of the Year conversation, right alongside Cooper Flagg, right alongside Janai Broome. Kind of fell off as the season went on, and Broome and Flagg separated themselves. But Cam Jones enters the NBA draft now off of a stellar collegiate career, one at Marquette we had not really seen at Marquette since Dwayne Wade was there, which was brought up very often during broadcasts of Marquette games. But I don't think that was totally unwarranted from a collegiate perspective, certainly. So, what about Cam Jones' game, Riley, do you consider to be his strengths? Like, what brought about those Dwayne Wade comparisons from just their time at Marquette?
Well, this year in particular, he improved a ton as a slasher. He improved a ton as a playmaker. You saw that with Tyler Kolek moving on to the NBA. He stepped right into that lead guard role and made a seamless transition. It felt like he became a point guard out of nowhere. He more than doubled his assist rate. And then at the same time, like he just got to the rim a ton and really showed great body control, great touch around the rim. Like he's not an explosive athlete by any stretch, but just really good at using angles and kind of carving out space with his body. And then, of course, if you go back to earlier on in his career, sophomore, junior year, he was a lights out pull up shooter, like just
Right.
to knock him off, knock him down on movement, knock him down on the catch, self create and shoot down. And yeah, like basically knock down triples in any variety of ways. But we saw that kind of dwindle a little bit last year.
Yeah, some of that I think has to do with the fact he was the only person on Marquette's scouting report. Pretty much, if you were
Hmm.
playing Marquette, it was just stop Cam Jones. I'm glad you brought up the point about him having the ball in his hands because he was a really good number two off ball guy next to Tyler Kolek for 2 years. And then the big question was, how are they going to replace Kolek's playmaking, his just overall production, and how he made that offense go? One of my favorite things to do last year was to track Cam Jones' assist rate compared to Tyler Kolek's assist rate. So it was about the same.
Hmm.
Like Cam Jones did that while maintaining a heavy scoring load, and again that dwindled because he was doing everything. Like he was carrying such a heavy burden on his shoulders, and for a good part of the season, it didn't matter.
Hmm.
As long as the ball was in his hands, he was going to make the right play, whether it was setting up his teammates, whether it was creating his own shot off the bounce, whether it was attacking the rim. As you mentioned, there's a lot to like about his game, certainly at the collegiate level. We'll talk about the NBA projections here throughout this video, but we did mention it dwindle down the stretch. What caused that? What are some of the weaknesses that you see in his game?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like I would say the optimist side for Cam Jones is he was as productive as he was with really no other scoring threats this past year other than Stevie Mitchell. Like that would be the what would portend
Yeah.
favorably for him. And even like I don't know, one weakness is like what is his role in the NBA? Are you going to play him more off ball? Are you going to play him more on ball? Because I guess he's a little bit undersized to be a true two guard to where you'd want to play him on ball more, but I have concerns about like how real the point guard playmaking is. Like he threw some absolute YOLO passes last year that worked. And like if you watched him get onto the paint and some of the kickouts he would make, he'd be passing the ball behind him where it's like I just don't know if that's going to translate. And then I know I mentioned his ability to like use his body well getting to the rim. And it's interesting. I think like his strength also sort of underlines his weakness. He doesn't really have much vertical pop at all. Like I think that was very evident at the combine. He was kind of seen as a loser there just because he didn't test well athletically. And I don't think it really showed up in the various workouts and drills they put him through. And yeah, that to me is really concerning in the NBA. Moving up a level to the NBA because if he's not able to be as physical and draw fouls and kind of show off his touch and lean on that like that athletic the lack of athleticism I think could get exposed.
Yeah, he struck me very often last year as a guy who had mastered the college game, but not
Hmm.
as necessarily like a top tier NBA draft prospect, right?
He's already 23.
Yeah,
Like he's
he's
old.
a really good player for that level, and the age helped with that certainly. But it seemed like he's kind of maxed out, almost
Hmm.
like this is who he is, right? And we're going to go through a bunch of different categories here. If you're new to these videos, there's 79 others of them that are going to be up on the channel. So go through our top 80 prospects. So make sure you check those out. We're gonna go with one word to describe him. My one word to describe him is polished, simply because he can do a little bit of everything, but also he is a little bit more of that finished product,
Hmm.
at least for me. What's the word for you?
Yeah, I said opportunity, and I would say that ties into the optimist view for Cam Jones. Like when he was given the opportunity to be the guy, he seized that mantle and never looked back. And I think that speaks to something to the work ethic. And even if you look at like who Marquette is as a program right now, they don't really use the transfer portal. They don't really get into NIL all that much. Or I know Shaka, I don't know how much Shaka like connects with agents and things like that. So I would say probably a different kind of guy in terms of like a work ethic and even what he's looking for to where I would say like that. If you're looking for like an everyday guy, so to speak, Cam Jones could be that player.
Yeah, he checks in at number 23 on our big board. Both Dion and I had him right at 23. Greg had him at 25. Cart was the high man, has Cam Jones as the 16th rated prospect on his big board. You had him at 31, so more of a second round guy for you. That seems to be more in line with where Cam Jones is projected to go in the draft. And that may play into this. Do you think he's more likely to hit his floor in the NBA or hit his ceiling in the NBA?
I would say his floor, just again tying into like the concern that the playmaking flashes might have been a little bit of a mirage and the lack of athleticism and just the age to where it's like where you just be even though I like him I'm a huge fan of like who Cam Jones is as a person and I want to like
Yeah.
believe in him and it honestly is I don't know. I wouldn't doubt him like sticking around in the league necessarily, but it's just there are some questions. It's like, did you just dominate as an older player in like a league that was in a down year this past season?
I went floor as well. Some of that plays into what I think his ceiling could potentially be. Not that I see it. We'll get into that a little bit later. Not that I see it. Um, but I think he has a high floor, right? Whereas you mentioned, I don't think he's somebody who falls out of the league. He does enough well that I think he'll stick. If it's nothing else, like a kind of a locker room guy. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Because of the kind of person he is, because of what the just high basketball IQ he has as well. I think his floor is pretty safe. The ceiling we can debate about how high that is, but I have a hard time believing he's going to be like somebody. Saying he's somebody notable at the NBA level is going to be a little bit harsh because I don't necessarily agree with that's the case. But somebody who is the same place on the scouting report that he was
Hmm.
at Marquette, right?
Right, right.
Which I think could potentially be his ceiling. We'll get into that a little bit later. Now, we mentioned him projected to be a second round pick. There's some chance he slides in the back end of the first round, but more than likely a second round pick. Basically means that the border's open for him in terms of where he could end up team wise. Where do you think the best team for him would be? What's that best team fit for you?
Heat culture for everything I already said about like just coming out of Marquette, like the grit and grind, work ethic, commitment, all of that. Like it, and I just think about the Heat in general. Like they have a really good track record of drafting older players and developing them into rotation pieces.
I went with the Suns, partially because the Suns need contributors.
They
For
need guard talent for sure.
they need guard talent, and you have plenty of scoring. At least as currently
Mhm.
constructed. We'll see what happens in terms of trades. But with Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, you have plenty of scoring. Cam Jones is somebody who I think can flourish then as a playmaker, can flourish as a defender, can flourish as somebody who can get you a bucket in a multitude of ways without needing to drop a play for him because of the different ways he can score. Right. I think that kind of malleable piece fits
Mhm.
in well with a team like the Suns who need a lot of help, need help in the backcourt, and need somebody who can help right away. And so Cam Jones being 23, being as experienced as he is, I think could have him come in there and play a role pretty quickly. Again, pretty wide range of where Cam Jones may end up on draft night. We'll see what happens there. But Heat and Suns, established teams that just need little pieces. Is that kind
Mhm.
of how you view Cam Jones as the NBA? Is this kind of that little piece fitting in?
For sure. Definitely like an ancillary type who's ideally not going to hurt you when he's on the court.
Yeah. So that may play into where we're looking at where he's at in 5 years. We had different options we could all vote for this. We had whether he was an All NBA player, an All Star, a starter, bench player. Is he in the G League? Is he playing overseas, or is he not playing basketball and just podcasting like us? Where do you have Cam Jones at in 5 years, Riley?
I think he'll be a bench guy. It might take some time to get there. Like I would assume he'll spend a good amount of time in the G League next year, but I'm gonna buy the work ethic into eventually getting back up to the association.
I'm gonna buy bench as well. That was where I had him, and this is a big bet on fit. I think, but he doesn't strike me as somebody who's going to go to a wasteland, right? Like,
Hmm.
I can say this, I'm a Hornets fan. The Hornets are not going to draft him, right? Because the Hornets, one, make dumb draft decisions, and two, swing on upside way too much. Cam Jones is not that guy. Like, Cam Jones is the guy who goes to teams who know what they want, are more
Hmm.
established, and he can kind of, again, fill in the pieces, right? Those are the places where you see guys who are drafted late stick around for a while and be bench guys because of the different things he can do. Like, Cam Jones fits that to me perfectly.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. It wouldn't shock me if he's a starter, but are you in the same mindset of me? And I'm going to guess that you are because of where you have him on your draft board. That he's more likely to be like a G leaguer than an all star or a starter.
That will actually tie into my superlative that we're about to get to, Ralph.
Well, let's go ahead and get to the superlatives. We gave again, we're going through all of our top 80 prospects here on our consensus big board at the Sleepers Media YouTube channel. Gave all of them a yearbook like superlative. So Cam Jones' superlative is that he's most likely to what from this draft class?
Most likely to move down to the G League and average 30 and 10.
That's way too good.
Dude, there's a lot of guys who put up huge numbers in the G League. Like you're telling me
Yeah.
this time next year, we're going to be scrolling Twitter and I'm going to see Paint Touches, great Marquette site, Paint Touches retweet Cam Jones has 33 and 14 assists in a G League game. And it's going to be like, "Oh, this is like making you raise your eyebrows a little bit." But a lot of times those guys don't ultimately like the production doesn't translate. Like I can say this as a Tar Heel fan,
Yeah.
Theo Pinson used to like absolutely tear up the G League. Theo Pinson was putting up like 25, 15, and 10 games in the G League left and right and never cracked an NBA rotation.
Do you know who was the guy who the algorithm was curved for me? But who that guy was for me on social media this year?
Who?
Isaiah Stevens, who was also with the Heat. Plays into your destination for him.
What was I like this parallel here a lot. What was Isaiah Stevens putting up in the G League?
He was put up like 20 and 10 games regularity.
Hey,
Regularity.
Nico Medved, Ali Farouk Manesh, player developers.
Yeah. I
Love
mean,
my Rams.
another guy who excelled with the ball in his hands, incredibly productive collegiate career, kind of maxed out a little bit.
Hmm.
Heat made sense for him. Could
Yeah,
make sense
there
for
you
Cam
go.
Jones as
You're
well.
proving my point, Ralph.
Yeah.
What's your superlative for him?
I went that he was most likely to wear his college gear in either the pregame walk up or postgame press conference.
That
Like
does check out.
Cam Jones strikes me as somebody who's going to rep Marquette wherever he goes.
He should. Marquette made him.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But like just wearing like the team issued sweat suit, like walking into a Heat game or walking into a Suns game. That just I see it. We're gonna get to our player comps now, and this isn't what we think is most likely. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit after. We're gonna do a best case and worst case. So if everything breaks right for Cam Jones, what does that look like? If everything breaks wrong for Cam Jones, what does that look like? Best case scenario, Riley. What's your best case? We'll get to best case and then we'll discuss. We'll each give ours and we'll discuss.
It's kind of funny putting this guy here because he's like probably significantly younger than Cam Jones, but I said Cason Wallace.
I think he is significantly younger than Cam Jones. Um, I went Donovan Mitchell.
It's a little much for me, Ralph.
It's a lot. This is best case. I didn't think Donovan Mitchell would be Donovan Mitchell, what he has
Yes.
become. But you look at a guy who was productive in college, came in the NBA, and there were, some he had Mitchell had much more upside potential than Cam Jones did. But undersized two guard who could do a little bit of everything took off in the NBA. The wide open way the NBA is played. 0.001% chance that happens for Cam Jones. I could see it. I would not project it. I think he's much more like Josh Hart than Donovan Mitchell, but very best case, I could see that.
I think Hart feels a lot more like the ceiling with Mitchell. It's just like even Mitchell, I wouldn't say is like an elite athlete, but I still see him like way above Cam Jones from an athleticism perspective
Yeah,
to where I just think the ceiling's a little more limited. With Kaysen, I was thinking more so like you probably want to measure third guard. Ideally, that would probably be like best case for him, where he just comes in, is a bulldog. Like I wouldn't say Wallace is overly explosive either, but just uses his frame really well and does all the little things, knocks down open threes. I will say like I could see Cam Jones with more upside as like a shot creator than Cason Wallace, to where maybe that's a little too like harsh to say that's a ceiling. But Cason Wallace is also a really good player who's probably about to be playing in the NBA Finals. So I don't think Cam
Yeah,
Jones can complain with that career path.
not at all. Not at all. What's worst case for you?
Worst case, I said Chris Dunn.
I said Olivier Hanlon.
Dude, you're swinging between some crazy extremes
This
here.
is best and worst case, man.
This
There's a
this
wide
is
range of outcomes here.
this is Boston College Olivier Hanlon, right?
This is Boston College Olivier Hanlon,
Or
who
would he play at Virginia Tech? He played at some bad
Boston
ACC
College. No,
school.
he was the last of that like storyline of Boston College teams that were like incredibly mediocre with one awesome NBA prospect.
Who was the Virginia Tech? Was there a Virginia Tech kid who won ACC Player of the Year on a really bad team, like when we were in college? Or am I thinking of Olivier
Malcolm
Hanlon?
Delaney.
I must be confusing with Hanlon. It's just like those bad ACC teams run together in my mind.
Yeah, no, Olivier Hanlon, which again, star on a Marquette was much better than Boston College was, but a star who did everything for his team for multiple years in college, gets drafted in the second round and is out of the league incredibly quickly.
See, even though I don't think his ceiling is nearly as high as you do, I think his floor is a lot safer to where Chris Dunn, another super productive Big East point guard. Although I guess Providence wasn't in the Big East when he played there, but let's just ignore that.
Providence was.
They were.
Providence has been in the Big East forever. Dan Gavitt like founded the Big East.
JK, edit that out. That was a bad. I'm just playing. He can keep it in, but that's a bad look by me. For some reason I had it mixed up that they were like. I guess no, I
Did you
guess
just confuse Providence with DePaul?
I did not confuse Providence with DePaul. I honestly was thinking like, oh yeah, surely they were in the A10 at some point. Okay, we can move on from my lack of Big East knowledge. Please don't come after me, Big East fans. But another
That's not
product.
something Big East Twitter does at all.
Anyway, another productive Big East point guard with like the long wingspan and everything, defensive tools, and it just took him some time to figure it out. Honestly, I was such a huge Chris Dunn fan coming out of
Oh man.
college. I wanted him to be a Hornet so badly. I was like, oh, this will make me lock into Charlotte Hornets basketball if we get Chris Dunn and he's our point guard of the future. But you see that, Dunn, he had his stints in the G League and finally he's like found a role as kind of that defensive stopper, do everything dirty work guy for the Clippers. I think worst case Cam Jones can be something like that.
Yeah, I think Kam Jones would have to elevate his defense significantly.
Yeah.
But I mean, Chris Dunn's incredible defensively. Just the offense
Yeah.
was never there, right?
Yeah,
But
for
I mean,
sure.
I could see a world where Kam Jones is like, I need this to stick in the league,
Hmm.
and just leans into being a defensive stopper because you mentioned he's got the tools to do so.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Dunn spent some time out of the league as well before working his way back in. Hanlon might be too harsh. Mitchell might be too good, but this is best and worst case. We're talking like 0.1% chance of this happening, you know?
Let's just say he'll as even Josh Hart feels too nice. Let's just say he'll be somewhere in between Casey Wallace and Josh Hart.
It's not bad.
Yeah,
That's
not
not
bad at
bad.
all.
I think you would take that if you were Kam Jones, certainly. Again, we're doing this for all of our top 80 prospects on our Sabres Media consensus big board. Kam Jones checked in at number 23. Make sure you watch all the other 79 videos, like and subscribe.